The quarterback battle in New England is still open between Jarrett Stidham and Cam Newton. So how does Bill Belichick feel about playing both of them? I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Evan Lazar. This Training Camp Central is brought to you by Manscaped. Belichick was asked on Wednesday morning about the possibility of a QB platoon, and he said he wouldn't rule it out. How would that work, and what are your thoughts about the platoon?
Well, after watching the first 2 days of practice, I actually mentioned this idea to a former colleague of ours who will remain unnamed, Alex Barth, and he said that I was crazy, that this is not the MAC, right? This is not college football, and that's not going to happen in the NFL. But I think what you've seen so far through 2 days or 3 days now is that Jarrett Stidham clearly has a better feel for the system that they're running offensively. There clearly is a wider berth of passing plays at Josh McDaniels' disposal because of that knowledge of the system. But Cam is mobile, and Cam is a playmaker, and Cam has that threat of being a running quarterback. So I think to myself when I say, in certain situations, in certain games, in certain matchups, it might make more sense for them to play Cam, and then it might make more sense for them to play Stidham in other games, in other matchups, in other situations. So I think the biggest thing for me is goal line, red zone, short yardage. That's really where the Patriots could benefit a lot from Cam Newton being out there. We've seen him do some things in practice that are schemed, designed schemes for his mobility, zone read plays, QB draws, things of that nature. And he's been so successful statistically on those types of plays in short yardage, in goal line type of situations, and the Patriots weren't so much last year in those spots a very good team. So I think that that's really where he could benefit the most. And as he learns this playbook, maybe they bring him along a little bit slower by just installing packages for situational football.
And slightly contradictory to this idea, Belichick also did say that he expects one of these quarterbacks to emerge as the number one guy eventually. They're just not there yet. It's still the third day of official practice at training camp. Say that guy is Jarrett Stidham or Cam Newton. But if it's Stidham, will Newton handle that well? And it's kind of like, what's the point of all of this if you had the guy all along?
Right. And I think the really interesting part for me, too, is just the fact that, is there enough time, really? And looking at this whole landscape of this offseason, it obviously made a ton of sense to bring in Cam Newton regardless, especially at this price. But is it even possible to get him up to speed in 2 weeks to get him on the field in week one? With Stidham, obviously, has a much longer time in the playbook. And I think that's how you would have to explain it to Cam. And the one thing that I look at with Cam being out there at practice is that he is so energetic, and he's such a ball of energy for this team. And he brings such an attitude and such a charisma to the locker room that even if he's not the starter, I think that there is a role for him on this team. Maybe it is that Jarrett Stidham plays 90% of the time, but like I was saying, on the goal line, they bring in Cam as sort of, that running quarterback to punch the ball in or whatever the case may be, just to keep him interested and keep him involved, because I think that they would benefit greatly from his energy and his leadership and what he brings to the table from an intangible standpoint, especially in a season where they don't have a Tom Brady, they don't have Dante Hightower, they don't have a lot of these guys that were bringing that sort of juice and that mojo in other years. They don't have that now, so maybe Cam can be that guy and replace some of that.
This whole saga has been so interesting. I mean, from us not believing they would ever bring in Cam Newton to them signing Cam Newton, everyone thinking he's definitely the starter, to now it almost seems like people are favoring Jarrett Stidham just a little bit based on these first couple of practices. We'll keep you updated with everything we know from Patriots training camp on our website at clnsmedia.com and on our YouTube channel at Patriots Press Pass.
Patriots Training Camp Central is brought to you by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping using the code MAX20 at manscaped.com. Take your grooming game to the next level.